Okay, well, welcome everybody. Ken Hughes, Coalition of Sustainable Communities. We have a roundtable today focused on planning and zoning updates underway by Bernalillo County that aims to encourage more and safer bicycling, pedestrian, and transit options. This follows up on August's adoption by the Coalition of Transportation as a number 2 priority, centered on implementing these transportation options, along with more focused land use, which is a priority for local governments. So let's start with Brian to give us an overview of the bicycle and pedestrian safety action plan. We'll then move over to Richard Meadows to talk about pedestrian and bicycle facility design as specified in the Complete Streets Ordinance and technical standards. And followed up by Elvira Lopez, who's going to talk about the recently funded high-profile pedestrian and bicycle projects in the county, such as the Isleta Drain Trail and Coors Boulevard's pedestrian safety. Okay, great. Richard, we want to pull up your presentation and
Sure, and it's
Brian,
it's it's
take
going to
it
be
away.
a little bit different than what you said, but I'll go over it.
Okay.
Um,
I'm good.
share. Okay, can everybody see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay, great. So let me go to this first slide. Okay, so um,
Actually, Richard,
good.
if you can make it full screen, that'd be even better.
Sure. Let's see. Does that make it full screen? How's that?
Not quite. There we go.
No?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Richard Meadows, and I'm with Bernalillo County with our Public Works Division, and we have with us, um, and I'm in Technical Services Department, which is where we do our engineering and our transportation planning. And then Brian Bonanno is here. He's also in Public Works Division in our Fleet and Facilities Department, and he does sustainability coordination. And then we have Elvira Lopez. She's in our Planning and Development Services Department, and she does more of the land use planning. And we also have Karina Pegao. Am I saying it right, Karina? Also with Planning and Development Services. And then Julie, I think Julie Luna might be on. I can't see her on the screen. She works with me in transportation planning. So we're going to talk about three things primarily today. So the first one is our new draft pedestrian and bicyclist safety action plan. I'm going to talk about that. And then we're going to go to the South Cores, where we have a safety project, a Safe Streets for All uh, design and construction project. And then we also have a parallel sector development plan. And so I'm going to talk about the safety project, and Elvira is going to talk about the sector development plan. And then finally, we're going to talk about our EV charging efforts, and that's me and Brian are going to talk about that. I don't know if we will get to like a Isleta Drain Trail or some of the other things, but if we have time, we can touch on
As
those
long as
as
you
well.
offer a spring ride on the trail, that'll suffice.
Okay, it's going to be a while because we're just starting designs, so it's going to be a while before it actually gets built. But um, okay, so with that, let's go to pedestrian safety action plan. So we um, we adopted our first one back in 2012, and so originally we had a joint bike and ped facility plan with the city of Albuquerque And in 2012, we decided to kind of split off and have our own bike and ped facility plan, but we wanted to emphasize um, uh, safety. And so we made it a safety action plan, but it's also a facility plan. It's a rank 2 facility plan based on our comprehensive plan. And so it does a number of things. It prioritizes our projects. Um, so this version, this 2025 version, just went to the County Planning Commission where it was passed unanimously for recommendation of approval going to our Board of County Commissioners, and that will happen on January 27th. And I don't see any problem with it being adopted by them. So it um, it updates a lot of things, and this version includes the East Mountains. Back in 2012, we didn't include the East Mountains, so this includes that as well. So since we're talking about sustainability and alternative modes, it addresses bike facilities, pedestrian facilities, and also multi-use trails, which they could either be parallel to a road or they could be an off-road multi-use facility. So with these facilities, mode share is about 5%, which we want to increase that by building these facilities. We're hoping to increase how many people use these facilities and offset those vehicular emissions. So these are active transportation facilities as well as recreation. So Parks and Rec, um, you know, also supports facilities, especially trails, as recreation, but as because we're in public works, we call these active transportation facilities. So we emphasize their benefits in terms of safety, reducing serious injuries and fatalities, health. There's a lot of health benefits to having these facilities, getting people out of cars, getting people to walk and bike, reduces a lot of health issues that we have. Also, health issues related to the emissions that come from our vehicles. This improves our air quality and improves people's health for that reason as well. And then there's economic benefits to these facilities. They increase property values for homes and businesses located along them. And there's a lot of studies out there that show that there are economic benefits to them. We got really serious in 2015 when the county adopted a complete streets ordinance that mandates that all of our transportation facilities that are collectors and arterials must provide these multimodal facilities. Local residential streets, we don't require that because we're in rural areas and they're low speed facilities. But in more urban parts of the county, we require sidewalks on local streets as well. Also, coming out of the 2012 plan, we adopted technical design standards in 2023 that tells us how these facilities are to be designed. And Julie's on our meeting if you guys have questions about our design standards, and she can talk more about that. So a big piece of this plan was to, like I said, to focus on safety, but also as part of safety, we're focusing on equity. So where are all these um, serious crashes and fatal crashes happening. And as you can see, um, it's lit up in our South Valley and some in the North Valley, less in North Albuquerque and East Mountains. So the South Valley, which is a kind of a low income um, majority minority area, that is one of our underserved communities in the past, has been neglected in terms of what kinds of facilities we build there. We're trying to get better about that, and most of our needs for facilities are in the South Valley. So this plan really emphasizes that from not just a safety perspective, but also an equity perspective. So you can kind of see um, all crashes in the unincorporated county. We focus on the unincorporated county. We don't include the city of Albuquerque or village of Los Ranchos or village of Tijeras. This is the unincorporated county. 9,000 total crashes, and this I believe is 2018 to 2022 or 2023, a 5-year period. Of that, 102 pedestrians, but a very high number of fatal and serious injuries for pedestrians. And less so for bicyclists, but we also look at where those are happening. I mentioned equity, so you can kind of see on this chart um, uh, our different community areas in our comprehensive plan, the southwest part of the county, the northwest, and southwest includes the South Valley. We kind of use those terms interchangeably. The North Valley, North Albuquerque, and the East Mountains. And that dark blue shows what the areas that we consider disadvantaged communities. That has a higher level of poverty. Um, Another thing is in the southwest area, there's a higher percentage of households that don't have vehicles present for them. And unfortunately, we don't have good transit options in the unincorporated area, although we have some in the South Valley, but not really good, frequent transit service. So that makes those areas also kind of disadvantaged. And then we also, connectivity is a big part of the plan. And by connectivity, we mean good access. Well, first of all, that we have complete networks where we fill in those gaps. There's an example of a gap on one of our stretches of bike facility or pedestrian facilities, but also that where we have good access for residents to destinations like schools, parks, community centers, transit stops, even retail, because if people could walk to nearby retail, that would reduce a lot of vehicular trips. So, and then this is the final plan. So, Wilson and Company was our consultant, and they did uh, a real in-depth analysis and evaluation of all of our facilities, and they came up with these projects. Most of the projects in the southwest area, and a lot of that is due to equity, but quite a few in the East Mountains as well. And then also I've added to our chart here that some of these facilities we already have existing projects, so we're trying to build some of those projects that our consultant did identify. And then with those projects, we're adding about 60 miles to our network. So it includes bike lanes, sidewalks, and trails, or different combinations of those types of facilities. And so with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer that before we go into the next presentation.
Any questions? Yeah, Christian, go ahead.
Thanks, Richard. I'm kind of wondering with the safety action plan, related a little bit to Ken's question about installing protected bike lanes. Like, what are the infrastructure? What's the price tag that goes along with this safety action plan? And is that something that will just be you guys will make an ask to it being included in the budget? Where does that money come from? How easy or difficult will it be? I imagine some of these things might include increasing um, road widths or
Right,
and those are pretty significant infrastructure costs.
right. Well, we don't, in this plan, we didn't get into too much into the design of these projects that will come later. So for instance, we identified the need for bike facilities, but we didn't get down into, are they protected bike facilities? Are they separated? That kind of thing. We do have standards about that, and where we can do kind of that higher level or enhanced kind of bike facility, we try to do that, but we can't, like you said, we don't always have the right of way to do that. So there's a lot of factors involved in determining where we can do protected bike lanes or not. We generally do have striped buffers now in our projects. We haven't done so many separated bike lanes, but we want to try doing more of that in the future. But a lot of it depends on the right of way, and if these are existing facilities, which they all are, they usually don't come with enough right of way to do everything we would like to do without a lot of cost of acquiring right away. So it really depends. It's same with our sidewalks. We like to have a landscape buffer in there, and it depends on if we have the right of way or not. And we try to, of course, we have to meet ADA. So at a minimum, we do build sidewalks to meet ADA standards. But if we can go further and provide wider sidewalks with buffers and amenities with them, like street trees and that kind of thing. We try to do that, but it's not always possible. So in terms of costs, it really depends on the design. In terms of where the funding comes from, so we go after federal and state grants, and then we match that with our local geo bonds. So we try to leverage that using a variety of sources. And the state has more sources of funding now. It used to just be capital outlay, but now there's other things. There's um, spacing out on all the different kinds of state funding. TPF, Transportation Program Fund. DFA now has some gap financing available that we can use to add to capital outlay or add to federal projects to make them go further. So anyway, it's a variety of funding sources.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and Albert has a question.
Yeah, hi Richard. Thank you for the presentation. Um, I was wondering the projects that are recommended, do you or did you consider like timing of the projects as well as integrating that with existing or tying it into existing city bike and ped infrastructure? Um, and yeah, just those basic questions.
Sure. Yeah, there are in the plan, and there's a link. I posted a link to the plan if you want to look at it in depth. It does have some recommendations about timing. Probably the time. What's going to happen is we have something called the CIP Capital Improvement Plan that our Board of County Commissioners adopts. And then there's the ICIP, the one that goes to the state. So so this plan recommends priority projects, but it's going to be our county commissioners that pick and choose among these projects what goes into our CIP and what goes into the ICIP. And so that will really determine more the timing of what happens. And that will also go into on federal projects, what we like, for instance, at the Mid-Region Council of Governments this year, we'll be doing our TIP Transportation Improvement Program development. So in terms of how our commissioners prioritize these projects, that will go into what we ask in terms of federal funding. And so that will also affect the timing of these projects. So there's a little more work to do to kind of flesh that out, what the costs are going to be and the funding sources and the timing. So
Great, thanks, Richard.
okay. And one thing I didn't talk about is a big piece of this. So this plan, it has projects, but it also has policy recommendations in it. And one of the big policy recommendations is Vision Zero. So you probably heard of Vision Zero, and at the state level, they call it Target Zero, and the feds call it Safe System Approach, but it's basically the same thing that we're trying to really our ultimate goal is zero fatalities and to reduce serious injuries. And so it's kind of an aspirational goal because so far the fatalities and injuries keep going up. But with these projects and with more, I guess, policy and priority from our elected leaders, we hope to turn that trend around. As you know, New Mexico and Albuquerque are at the top of the list nationally in terms of fatalities and serious injuries. So it's going to take a lot of work from the state and local governments to really turn that trend around. But with this plan, we're saying that that is our goal to totally eliminate fatalities and serious injuries, maybe in the next 20 years. So hopefully we can start moving towards that goal. So, okay, anybody else have any questions or?
Richard, I was just going to say if
Sure.
you have that link to maybe put it in the chat.
Yeah, it is. I put it in earlier. Can you see it?
No, I can't. Can anyone else see it? Or maybe I'm just missing it.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's in here in the top of the remarks of the chats.
Yeah, so that'll take you to our webpage that has the plan to
I think
look
if
at.
you
And
joined the
then,
meeting late, you don't see that part of the chat.
oh
Oh,
shoot, I could do it again. Let's see. Um, okay, and let's see. Sorry, I think I have to unshare to be able to see the chat to put it in there. Okay. All right. All right. Now can you see it? Okay,
perfect.
great.
Thank you.
All right. So let me close that and then I'm gonna share again. And okay, can everybody see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the next one is about South Coors. So I'm going to do the first part about our transportation project, and then Elvira will do the second part about our sector development plan. Okay. So South Coors Boulevard in the South Valley. So basically, it's a state facility. It's New Mexico 45. It's a principal arterial in the South Valley. It has two travel lanes, and it has no. So it's also a major transit corridor for ABQ Ride. Provides um, transit service on there, and in terms of our comprehensive plan, and also the our metropolitan transportation plan, it's a major transit corridor. So that means our land use should reflect that status, as well as the road design should reflect that status. And currently there are no bike or ped facilities along New Mexico 45 in the South Valley. So basically south of Bridge Boulevard, there are no, except at a few intersections, there are no bike and ped facilities. And then there's been lots of crashes, including fatalities and injuries. So you can see since 2018, 18 people have died along there, including 4 pedestrians. 17 have been seriously injured. 1,200 crashes between 2018 and I think it's 2022. So a few years ago, we applied for one of the new transportation programs in the Biden administration. Unfortunately, the Trump administration is keeping this program. We applied for a Safe Streets for All grant, and we got $8 million. We're matching it with another couple $1 million from both City of Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, and so we have um, sorry, $8 million total includes our match. I'm sorry, I misstated that. But we have preliminary cost estimates now, and it's probably a $12 to $15 million project now. So the cost of these projects just keep going up every year, and unfortunately, so now we're going to have to find more money to supplement the $8 million. But we are designing it right now. We have about $1.5 million for design, which should be plenty, and we should finalize the design. We have preliminary design. We should have final design this year in 2026 to be ready to go to construction when we have our full funding. So the project goes from Gun Club to Blake, which is a couple miles, but eventually we want to continue these improvements another couple miles north up to Bridge Boulevard, and that reflects what's in our sector development plan. Okay, so here's in our preliminary design, here's some of the improvements that are happening. So first of all, we're trying to reduce speeds. So we're reducing the driving lane width from 12 feet down to 10 and a half feet. So where we have buses, we need at least 10 and a half feet for transit, but we're trying to get those lane widths down to be able to fit more improvements, including bike and ped facilities. We're going to add raised medians where they're not in there. And what that does, that helps with what they call access management. So a lot of crashes are caused because people are making left-hand turns. And if you have one of those center turn lanes, you have people making left-hand turns all over the place. It creates conflicts. It causes a lot of crashes. So we're adding raised medians, and hopefully they'll be landscaped medians, which we try to do what they call GSI LID, so that that we have stormwater drainage in those medians and along the sides of the roads to help clean the stormwater runoff as well as water landscaping. So there's signal timing strategies in there. So that's things like, I don't know if you've seen those yellow flashing left turn lights. That helps with protected turns and safety in terms of people making left-hand turns. And now there's even right turn strategies so that there's a delay between when the pedestrians get the walk signal and the vehicles are allowed to make right turns. There's kind of a little delay there, and that provides some protection to pedestrians. Striping and roadside visual elements. So where we do have on-street bike lanes, they would be striped as such. We're looking at probably doing multi-use trails instead of protecting bike lanes. That seems to be the preference of the community. They still feel, even if we have protected bike lanes or separated bike lanes, the community still feels unsafe on South Cours with high speeds. So we're looking at these multi-use trails. We want to reduce the speed limit. Right now, parts of South Cours are posted at 50 miles per hour. That is just unreasonable to us. And now it used to be that under the MUTCD, you had to do, there was a certain way to do speed studies and to warrant lowering speed limits. Now it lets us look at safety factors to factor that into those warrants. And so we're hoping we'll be able to reduce speeds to 45 or even 40 miles per hour, which is still high in an urban environment, but I don't think we can go below that. Corridor lighting, that's a really important part of the design. The lighting is not consistent throughout the corridor, and we've had lots of issues with vandalism, with people stealing the copper wire And so we're having to put in aluminum wire, and then we want that consistent lighting and also lighting for pedestrians. So it'd be lighting on the road as well as lighting on the trail or pedestrian area. Protected intersections. So that is looking at those turning radii and trying to tighten that up so that people are making those turns slower in a slower fashion. We do have to consider truck commercial trucks, but we are looking at tightening that up. And then mid-block crossings. So a lot of those pedestrian fatalities have happened where people are live along the corridor, like there's some mobile home parks. They're trying to cross this wide, busy street that has no protected medians. They're trying to cross that to retail areas and people without cars and to buy their groceries or whatever, trying to cross that busy street and have been hit and killed. So we have a couple places where we're looking at mid-block crossings with hawk signals. And then I mentioned the stormwater design, bioswales. So, okay, so here's some examples of that up at the top. You can see on between the curb and gutter and the sidewalk or trail, there'll be some kind of a bioswale, possibly with landscaping. On the, let's see, the upper left, there's an example of these protected driveways. So where the trails cross driveways, and we're trying to reduce and consolidate driveways to businesses because that will make the roadway safer. But where we do have driveways crossing the trail, we'll have these ramps to kind of slow those turning vehicles down to make it safer for bikes and peds. We also have these floating bus shelters being proposed along the trail to make it safer for people using the trail. And then you can see the hybrid pedestrian beacons that we want to put in. That's on the upper right. On the lower left, you can see kind of a view from above. You can see the multi-use trails, 12-foot wide. And then you can see these proposed mid-block crossings that will have the hawk signal with an example of one of these floating bus stops. And then the lower right, you can see these protected intersections where we're going to really tighten up the turning radii to make it safer. So that's kind of what I have on the road project portion. And so before Elvira presents, does anybody have questions on the road safety project? And again, I can't seem to see anybody. I've lost.
Is it worth talking about how the response from community so far or anything like that?
Yeah, I
Or-
can talk about that. And I see we have 20 minutes. So I'm gonna have to hop off at 11 and
Yeah.
like
Oh,
I can
And
move into the
okay.
land use.
Okay, but real quickly, we have had one community meeting on the design as well as some smaller neighborhood presentations and forums on the roadway design. But I'll let Elvira go ahead.
And I'll just say too, most people on this call have heard me talk about chargers, so don't worry about like trying to squeeze any advice.
Okay.
So take as
Well,
much
this
as
is all. Thank you. I'll go ahead And I know we have a couple of slides on the plan, and I thought as I was thinking about this, I'm going to share just a couple of pages from the comprehensive plan just to set the stage on what we know about this community that sets the stage for this sector plan that's being proposed, this land use plan. So I'm going to share real quick. Replace current share.
Okay. Okay. Can you?
If that's okay.
Yeah, you
Okay.
want, I'll stop sharing mine then.
Okay. So you all see this map I have up?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Elvira Lopez. I'm the planning manager. We've been working with Richard and his team on the South Coors Boulevard Sector Development Plan. That's a land use plan that addresses development of private land adjacent to the South Coors corridor that Richard has been presenting on. Public Works has responsibility in the county to plan, design, and develop public roads and serve the community in that way. Um, this sector development land use plan was initiated by Public Works to coincide with their um, public improvement project of the South Coors Boulevard that has been presented. We've been working very closely with Richard, as we do in many land use plans. The comprehensive plan was one of our most recent successes. Richard and I worked very closely on updating Bernalillo County, the Albuquerque Bernalillo County comprehensive plan, still jointly adopted with the city, but having a volume that focuses on the county to kind of clarify who the county communities are, their unique dynamics in relation to the city. And so what I'm sharing here is the community areas maps. All the colored areas show the different communities in the county. The gray are the obviously different jurisdictions, and of course, very significantly in the center is city of Albuquerque. You all are probably familiar with its shape. Um, and so the South Core Sector Development Plan is located within what we are calling the Southwest Community Area, which kind of relates to the community planning areas that the city has. The counties are different in that they follow the boundaries of longstanding um, plans that have been adopted in the last decades since one could say the beginning of planning. These community areas represent those historic boundaries that our plans created alongside with communities, and many times they represent historic boundaries, especially as we get more detailed. And so the South Coors plan is along and I don't know if you all could see my cursor. Here's the segment of it, south of Central, around south of Bridge Boulevard here, down to south of Gun Club. It's about a 4 mile stretch. And so we don't have a rank 3 sector plan for that area. And so this is a great opportunity for the city, excuse me, for the county. The other thing I wanted to point you to before I do talk about a little bit of the mechanics of the plan, and I'm trying to share the demographics. Are you all seeing these charts? Okay. So when we did the comprehensive plan, like I said, we focused in on the county communities and elevated their visibility, beginning, of course, with population, understanding the people, how many people do we have? And so this data is from the 2020 census, and I understand we're already halfway through the next decade, so this has probably changed, but I think still represents a lot of what's happening because we haven't had a lot of population growth since the 2020. But you see that in the county, including all of the incorporated communities, city of Albuquerque, there's close to 700,000 people, where the city of Albuquerque constitutes the majority with over 500,000 people, and where the unincorporated county constitutes of all those communities that I shared, the colored areas, including the East Mountains, that's over 100,000 people. And you heard, I don't know how many of you picked up what Richard was presenting, and even in his pedestrian plan, historically, they didn't really recognize the East Mountains. That's something that's happened in the comprehensive plan. We've definitely made all of our communities visible, including the East Mountains communities. And so here in the second table, we have disaggregated what that unincorporated population is by community areas. So that map I showed you, and you see the East Mountains, the largest area size-wise, square miles, is the East Mountains, followed by the Southwest, which I'm going to hone in on. That's where the South Core Sector Development Plan is located. But when you look at the people, of course, we are in rural areas, and naturally so, the East Mountains is very low population. Its geography. Southwest area has close to 50,000 people. It's the highest populated area, second largest area geographically. And so I'm going to move on now to look at some statistics in the Southwest community area as I kind of set up for talking about the land use plan. So there's about 50,000 people, close to 600 square mile area, second largest in our unincorporated areas for planning purposes. We have a housing density of 200 homes per square mile. There's 84 square miles. I think the density is interesting, and I think that comparison, and I think the numbers are here. I'm going to look at the Southwest area. I'm not sure that the density is shown there. I think it's from a different chart. But what's interesting about the Southwest area is that there's, my apologies, 578 people. I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'm under pressure here, but 578 people per square mile compared to the city, 3,000, roughly 3,000 people per square mile. Or here's the density for the city, and the county's density is, oh, it's right here, 578 people per square mile. So the city being about, what is it, 5 times the density, the city being 5 times more dense than the Southwest community. So maybe now's a good time. Richard, can you go back to sharing your screen? Because I would like to now move into the South Core Sector Development Plan. Okay, so Richard and I and our groups have our departments, we're housed in the Planning and Development Services Department. There's about 80 people. There's a small group of 6 of us who do land use planning, the early stages of development. And so we've been working with Richard's Public Works group, and we have developed a rank 3 level plan that addresses zoning that would be complementary to all of these pedestrian safety, sustainable development improvements that are happening on the public right of way. And so our main strategy is to build on the city and the county's framework of centers and corridors. And I won't get into that for timing purposes, but basically we do have a shared framework that works on concentrating land uses where there are transportation amenities, and particularly at intersections would be where we want to focus in on commercial activity centers. So that's what we're talking about with the activity centers. And then where we do have access, roadway access, vehicular access, we do establish corridors and want to have corresponding complementary land uses. In the county, as you saw in the demographics, we do have a much lower density, and that has happened, some of it naturally, historically, through its settlement patterns over time, from the origins of development in New Mexico, back to colonization, et cetera. But some of it is maintained through policy. We do have rural policies in the county where the city does not. And that is the policies guiding development and reflecting the values of the people. So the intensity of development is tethered by very specific policies in the county. And so introducing a plan that opens up a different kind of level of intensity is innovative. So this is an innovative plan, and where we do engage the public in public process to make sure that what we're doing is mindful of their values, existing policies, and ultimately, serving the community needs. And so what we've proposed here are 2 zones. The kind of like tan is the corridor zoning, and the orange are the center zoning. Both zones are generally the same, except I would say the orange allows for greater densities, housing densities at the intersections, which we would call centers. And the corridor zoning is a little bit different in that it does accommodate for some vehicular oriented land uses in the way that centers are not. And the densities aren't as high along the corridors. The reason we are proposing more intensity along the south corridors is because of our policies, as I mentioned. This corridor is not specifically located in the rural area. It's located in the developing urban area. And if you recall in the map, in the regional map, it's closer to the city. So some of these designations are more urban in policy because their proximity to the city, proximity to infrastructure. And you even see we're focusing our county resources and redevelopment of the Coors Boulevard for safety, for sustainability purposes, just higher quality of life. And so we are proposing these higher densities up to permissively 12 dwellings per acre along the tan, gray, brown areas, and permissively 25 dwellings per acre in the orange activity centers. In addition, we are introducing a very, I think, relatively new concept in the county of mixed use zoning, which allows housing and commercial to occur on the same site and even within the same building at times. That would happen permissively if you had access to these zones, and where we are proposing that the center zoning be adopted with adoption of the plan, or in other words, with adoption of the plan, people would be able to access the orange zoning immediately. The tan brown zoning would happen optionally, and that means property owners could apply for that if they're interested, but they would have a lot of, with adoption of this plan, they would have a lot of planning policy support because the Board of County Commissioners would have adopted this. We see that the mixed use zoning, the higher density zoning is complementary to make it, to all of the changes that are proposed for Coors, pedestrian safety, efficiency of transportation, because we would have land uses available to the community where they wouldn't have to travel outside of their community, and we would have housing mixed with the commercial services, work opportunities, and hopefully they would be able to walk or maybe more easily use transit or bicycle or all of the different modes of transportation more efficiently in a localized area rather than having to cross the region or leave their community. We do have a dynamic in the South Valley in general. I kind of flashed at, to it with the census data. One of the largest employment industries is construction. So just an interesting kind of anecdote, as we were doing the plan, we were so focused on mixed use and kind of these neighborhood commercial uses. And it wasn't until the tail end, because we do work, our group in planning works very closely with customers in the community who have any kind of idea. We're a small group, so we deal with current planning, mid-range, long range. We deal with the whole continuum of development. So we do have a pulse on what small scale developers, local developers are interested, and we often get requests for contractors' yards, construction kind of oriented businesses. So it wasn't until kind of towards the end of the process that we kind of awakened to that and remembered we need to accommodate those land uses. And it's, very county centric to do that, to really look at, the people, the kind of industries that are employing people. And it's turned out, as we've met with community as well as elected leaders, that focusing in on our workforce, our existing people, has been a really positive thing. Now, I will say, and I see I have 4 minutes, one area of challenge has been the housing density. We have received recent, pushback from our elected leaders and for this area, as well as community members concerned about the multi-story possibilities here and the kinds of densities that we're proposing. And I think with that, I think that's a good overview of the plan. And I know that in your next slide, Richard, you had the policies that we're hitting or the objectives, but I think I've kind of talked about them all through this. And so I think I'll pause here and stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Elvira. That was very informative.
I actually had one question, just clarifying with the kind of the term dwelling. When you say 24 per acre in the orange zones, what kind of dwellings is that? Multifamily, single family? Kind of how do you
A
define
great
that?
question. Unique to this plan, we would not be allowing single family as you would expect in outside of centers or technical corridors, like in the residential areas to the east. But by the way, to the west, you'll see kind of how it's grayed out. That city of Albuquerque. To the east is the unincorporated communities. They're semi-urban by policy, but they see themselves as rural. And so those rural communities have one house on one lot typically, and they're large lots. Sometimes, half acre, acre. They're the lots that you wouldn't see in the city. And again, by policy now. And so in these centers, we're actually prohibiting the one house on one lot, although we are proposing an amendment to the plan, having heard from public input that we would be allowing multiple single families on one lot now. That wasn't original to our submittal, but that's one way we're trying to pivot and address concerns from the community. So to answer your question, the 25 dwellings allows different forms except for single one house per lot. You can have a townhouse, you can have a courtyard, you can have any, various forms. And that's one of the things that this plan is trying to address from the comprehensive plan, is allowing a variety of housing types. We don't see a lot of that in the unincorporated county. Often, as you heard Richard, even represented along this corridor, one of the go-to forms of affordable housing in the unincorporated county are mobile home parks. So we are explicitly trying to make visible the opportunity to have different housing types up to apartments, in one building, one structure.
Thank you.
I just want to highlight Albert's question in the chat. Is the county considering reducing parking requirements in these areas?
Yes, the answer is yes. With the adopted zoning, whether it's through approval of the plan, the orange centers, or through optional zoning changes from property owners, the parking requirements for housing are reduced compared to standard zoning. Just again, an anecdote that might be interesting for you as planners and policymakers. The consultant originally proposed 0 parking, which immediately was shot down because we are not in an urban environment. We do have to recognize that along this corridor, people still rely heavily on vehicles. So the work that Richard is doing it's going to be transformative in creating spaces even when they don't exist. And that's one of the challenging parts, whether it's through Richard's creating pedestrian safety environments, whether it's through land use, creating these innovative housing types. It's not what's in front of people. Like, that is not an existing condition. So it not only is it hard for people to imagine that kind of future, but politically it's hard. We haven't succeeded yet. We're currently working with our leadership to work on these proposals. Our next hearing is in February 10th, I believe. And we're hoping to succeed with either this plan or a version of this plan with regards to the land use components. Now, keep in mind, Richard's work is already programmed. That is a different body of work, but very related. And, we understand that as planners, our works are intimately related. We need each other to succeed. But the land use is the people process, and it's still working its way through the process.
Thank you, Elvira. did you want us to quickly present on the EV charging, or does everybody have to drop
Sure.
off now?
Sure, that's fine. If you could give a little update on that, that'd be great.
Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to present, and good luck. Brian, I'll catch up with you later. Thank you,
Yeah,
everyone.
thanks, Elvira.
Thank you, Elvira.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Okay. Let's see. There we go.
I can just do
Okay.
a real.
I'm gonna just turn it over to you, Brian, and
Sure.
Oh.
And I'll run through it real quick for the sake of everybody's
okay.
time. And I know many people probably are aware of some of the work that we've been doing. One of the big updates, though, as far as EV charging, is that we just about a week and a half ago got our finalized plan for a fleet electrification and infrastructure plan at focusing specifically on our public works facility. So we worked throughout 2025 with PNM and their partner DNV to kind of do an assessment of our vehicle fleet specifically at that location. And so we built from an unadopted fleet electrification plan that we completed in 2024. And that plan looked at our entire fleet. And so unfortunately, it wasn't passed or adopted in any kind of meaningful way at that time. But we used kind of the bones of that to really narrow in on the one facility that houses the majority of our fleet, and where many of our it's probably our second largest campus for staff and equipment and everything outside of Alvarado. And so this plan provides the county with specific recommendations for infrastructure work, as well as the charging needs and the vehicle replacements. So it's also, we kind of had them look at, developing this plan, assuming that there will be no additional funding coming in the next few budget cycles for EV vehicles or infrastructure. We kind of have to work with the money that is available. A lot of the infrastructure costs are probably going to be sourced through rebate money that I'm currently trying to work on getting, as well as grants. And then we kind of had to look at total cost of ownership for comparisons, as far as making a case for switching out specific vehicles. I am going to try and work as hard as possible to get this plan adopted as policy for fleet and facilities, hopefully in the next few weeks. But it's still kind of uncertain as to whether or not that'll happen. Richard, actually, yeah, you can jump to the next slide. So I'll just give you a run through of what, and actually I have it on my computer too, so I can just talk through it. Oh yeah, there it is. Oh wait, no, that's, yeah, can you push it forward one? Or maybe it's just not showing up.
Sorry.
Well, no, you're okay.
I'm having an issue here.
I've got it open on mine, so I'll wing it. So we had 331 light and medium duty vehicles that we reviewed at that specific campus. Of those 331 vehicles, 100 showed an opportunity for positive total cost of ownership. So that is electrification based on the availability of the vehicle type, the capital, so the money to purchase the vehicle, then looking at the total lifetime fueling costs, the maintenance costs, and the infrastructure costs that are associated with charging those vehicles. So we determined to switch just those 100 vehicles. We would need roughly 38 level 2 ports of charging. So roughly 18 chargers of level 2, and then as well as 3 level 3 chargers, or no, 6, sorry. No, 3 level 3 chargers with 6 ports. But we do not have the electrical capacity to support that many chargers. So we need to, the first step actually is to work with PNM to bring in a new line of 480 service dedicated specifically for charging, as well as a new 1500 amp transformer. And so some pretty big infrastructure costs. Before factoring in the infrastructure costs, we determined or estimated that switching those 750 vehicles would save the county roughly $750,000 on maintenance and mostly fueling costs over the lifetime. But the infrastructure costs were estimated at roughly $725,000, which is probably an underestimate. So the total cost of savings for the infrastructure and vehicles is kind of estimated around, or the savings are estimated at roughly $25,000. So it's kind of neutral at the moment, but the other added benefit, though, is the reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. And so we've estimated that to be about 2,700 metric tons over the life of those particular vehicles. So this is what I'll be working on, trying to get this sort of plan adopted and start changing out these particular 100 vehicles. Ideally would be within the next 2 to 3 years, if I can get buy-in. But as some of you already know, I've already kind of started on some of this work. And then actually this past summer, we installed 3 new chargers or 6 ports. The first kind of higher capacity level 2 chargers specifically for our fleet needs. We do have 12 electric vehicles in the fleet already. And so these are primarily for charging those vehicles. We did also install the infrastructure to put in an additional 3 chargers when we have available money and available capacity, because actually these 3 chargers that we installed have already maxed out what is available to us at the campus as it is right now. So that's why the priority will be getting the transformer and new line of service in. In addition to that, I guess I'll just keep winging it. We did also install a level 2 charger at our fire station in the North Valley that will hopefully charge our new EV fire truck when that comes, which I'm now told is maybe late February, early March. And then Richard and I have also been working on public facing chargers. Richard, several years ago, got a grant to install chargers at rail runner stations. So we have chargers at 3 stations from Rio Bravo in the South Valley to El Pueblo and I think Montano up in the North Valley at those stations. And Richard is also working on a level 3 charger. He got a grant from the state to install a charger that we're kind of working on, still trying to finalize the location, but it should be going in just outside of the Mr. Cog offices on 8th and near Central. Hopefully that'll be coming in by June. And then I'm also simultaneously finalizing a plan for community center chargers that would hopefully come in either later this spring or early summer. A couple of locations in the South Valley. So our South Valley Multi-Purpose Center off of Trisco, Los Padillas in the far South Valley, as well as a station in the East Mountains at Vista Grande. So actually each of those locations will get 2 to 3 chargers to kind of make them hubs. And then also on the far northwest side of the county at Paradise Hills, we would be looking to do, I think, at least 2, possibly 3, mostly higher capacity 80 amp level 2 chargers. And then we did finalize, well, almost completed our first community center charger installation this week out at Los Vecinos Community Center near Tijeras. That one has taken about 10 months, but it's just about ready to be activated. So yeah, that's none of this right now is like formal policy. I'm trying to work us towards that, but yeah, there's been political challenges and budget challenges. Our fleet director, Kyle Young, though, is very much eager to kind of see the transition to EVs. He drives an EV himself, so it's beneficial to him, and he understands the benefits to the county. So we're working towards that, but it's slow going, but we're making some steady progress. And that's kind of the gist of the EV stuff. Richard, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else on top of that.
No, I'm sorry. For some reason, I couldn't. My slides just froze up. I couldn't advance them. But
No worries. I just realized I
anyway,
probably could have shared mine too. I did think about it,
yeah.
but yeah. But we're making some progress, and we'll see. We've added quite a few new chargers just in the last year. I'm excited. I think once we get infrastructure going, it'll be a lot easier to make the case to purchase more vehicles.
Congrats, that's pretty
To have
huge.
the stations available to the public. We just bought a Mini Cooper all electric.
Oh, nice.
It's a 120-mile range, so having that charge up ability and in your neck of the woods to come back to Santa Fe is essential. So thank you for doing
Yeah. Yeah, happy to hear that and happy to provide that. So, and I think we'll
Ryan,
just,
I had a quick question about the P&M program. Was that free of charge?
It was.
Cool.
They had, we were kind of the test case for it as providing this service. And I thought it went really well. Honestly, working with DMV, it took a little more time than I think we had initially thought it would. It was supposed to be completed last summer. But it's free, so I can't make any complaints. And the final product is great. It's really easy to read and accessible and very tangible, realistic kind of goals. One of the things that was one of the reasons that it ended up taking more time was because halfway through this planning effort, we learned obviously that many of the EV incentives for infrastructure and vehicles were removed. So we had to basically redo all of our numbers and estimates based on that. So those estimates that we have there, they don't include any sort of rebates or other incentives. So which could potentially, maybe the state will have some additional opportunities in the future. There might be other grants. So that's not factored into that. So.
Well, I wonder, in the sake of, collaboration, I wonder if maybe this would be a great opportunity for the coalition to share a summary of kind of what you guys did, maybe attach the report and say, hey, if you're interested in accessing the next free cohort or something, contact this person. Because I think that's maybe you guys can demonstrate that buy-in, because I know there's lots of, for example, some of the tribes, for example, were thinking about electrifying their fleet, but it's really nice to be able to come to your leadership with hard data and numbers.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, that was more of, I guess, a comment, but my other question was, do they do any right sizing? Or is that something that anyone's done in terms of fleet management yet?
That previous unadopted plan has a prioritizes right sizing first. And I think when we did that study, we determined there were roughly, I think, 400 vehicles that it could be either moved into a motor pool or it could be shifted around. We did do a little bit of that. We did analyze of those 331 vehicles, we looked at, where they're traveling, because we can track that, how frequently they're traveling, the average mileage or usage, or how many. We have some vehicles that, only take 3 or 4 trips a year in some cases. Right. And so it is mentioned in this one, and we have talked to our leadership in public works and facilities specifically about that. It's still, I would like to, help other groups, kind of pursue the similar project or talk more about how we've gone through this. I don't know officially yet if this will be adopted. it's been presented to some of the people above me, and the response has been sort of muted, I would say, so far. There's a kind of a cultural thing that we're trying to overcome first, which is just the adoption, basically EVs. We're pretty attached to our large size trucks, our Broncos, and one person driving in each vehicle. And there's cases for those, if you're a sheriff's deputy or, one of our maintenance folks. So there's a little bit more work that needs to be done there before we can really, that was really why the bigger plan was not adopted. That's why I was hoping that this smaller plan, where it's really focused on
that makes sense.
set of vehicles.
Yeah, people are so funny about about having their identities tied to what they drive.
Oh yeah. It's been interesting, but there are people in each of those groups, as I've talked to them, that are excited. And the sheriff's department is actually a really great opportunity. They're excited about EVs. The only problem that they've kind of had is that there's just not a vehicle currently available that can kind of meet their needs, though they're interested and would like to make the transition. So it may happen that they would go first, even before some of our facilities and fleet crews. So we'll see.
Yeah, we've noticed of late that there's certain departments are much more inclined. So like, for example, the biopark and arts and culture in general might be a really good test subject for us to do more sustainability measures, whether that's fleet related or not, I'm not sure. But yeah. Departments can be cultural for sure.
We've had some that have thought it's frivolous, that they don't want to be seen driving a car because they think that it is it's too showy, which is odd, but yeah, considering that we have a lot of other vehicles that are a little more showy. But yeah, it's a fun field to be kind of working in and seeing how people respond. So yeah,
I think it'll be interesting to study to figure out what are the implications of electric bicycles like mine back here in getting around 30 miles a day easily with no sweat. And it can really make a difference in land use patterns, I would think, over time.
sure.
So
And that would relate especially back to what Richard has been working on, and Julie with bike infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure and on-street facilities and off-street. So yeah, I think that's a great question.
well, Ryan and Richard, thank you very much. It's a very interesting, illuminating discussion, and pass my thanks on to Elvira as well.
Okay.
We'll record this and put it on our website along with the presentation that you share with me, Richard, and look forward to talking to you soon.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken, and everyone.
Yeah, thank you.